Today we ask the question, is Italy leaving the euro? Last week, a dozen or so finance ministers from Europe met to discuss their response to the current pandemic. And the media reports that around 9 countries were specifically advocating for something called Eurobonds, which is the mutualisation of debt shared between some of the nations in the EU. But the Dutch especially, and to a lesser degree the Germans, decided that wasn't something they wanted to do and rejected the proposals. So currently we have apparently around 540 billion euros that have been promised in relief. And that is through the European Stability Mechanism, which is going to be around covering health expenditure. There's the European Investment Bank, which is administering loans to business, and then there is the European Commission, which is managing a €100 billion unemployment fund. Now, the first thing to point out is that while 540 billion sounds like a lot of money, this is actually 28 billion, or just under 28 billion in actual money, which is less than 0.2% of the annual EU GDP. The rest is actually going to be created in credit and loans. And this is a really important thing to bear in mind, because especially the European Stability Mechanism, which is what the Europeans want to be the main way that nations try to get some relief. That's already been used in Greece and was universally hated by the Greeks. And a key element of the European Stability Mechanism is that it's conditional on structural adjustments. Now, in classic finance speak, they love to use these very oblique references, because saying what it really is going to scare people. What it really is it's conditional on countries changing things like their taxes and their budgets to make sure that they can afford to pay back the loan. And this is really important because almost certainly later on this year, Spain is going to be looking at mass unemployment. Italy is going to be having anemic growth at best. And the public debt to GDP of a country like Italy is going to go through the roof. If let's say they borrow 100 billion from the ESM, their public debt to GDP will be around 200% at that point, especially if their growth stalls as well. And so there will almost certainly be extreme austerity, tax rises, reduced funding for public services in Italy. And Italy were already not particularly huge fans of the EU. Salvini and the Lega Party were already talking about Italy leaving the euro. And it is my firm belief that the euro, having rejected these Eurobonds, is effectively on a death march. And Italy will be joining England in exiting the EU. And funnily enough, one of my subscribers and I had a conversation a good few years ago when I said that I think that before Brexit actually happens, before England actually leaves the EU, then the EU will announce its breakup. I think slightly differently now, because I think the EU will continue, but it'll be a much smaller conglomeration, probably of the northern states. But the key thing, a really important thing to bear in mind here, is that this isn't the Italians and the Spanish are not looking for bailouts from the northern industrial exporting companies because of solidarity or looking for philanthropy. A lot of people don't realise that the reason why countries like Germany and Holland are such powerhouses is because the euro is kept cheap because it's a currency that's shared by these so-called profligate southern states. So once they lose the Italians and the Spanish, then the euro will get stronger, and the exports will become that much more difficult for the northern states. So ironically, not supporting the southern states through Eurobonds is likely, firstly, to break up the EU, but secondly, to create a huge drag on exports from some of the more powerful industrial economies in Europe. And then finally I'd end with saying that there is still one very outside chance that there could be a fix for this. There is a wide agreement for something called a reconstruction fund. There's a commitment, but none of the details have been shown yet. In reality, while it's being touted as this new Marshall Plan, I don't know if it will be enough to fix all these problems. And my belief is that Italy will be announcing their exit from Europe within 18 months, probably more like within 6 to 12 months. So let me know what you think. Agree, disagree? Am I talking shit? Should I be talking more? And I'll see you again next time. All right, bye for now.